Tim Elliott.
Trash.
Wow.
And, he's had to deal with a lot this week, and it's a lot of jet lag, time travel, just time travel.
Welcome into Takedown City for UFC Long Island, which goes down on Saturday afternoon. And if you're like myself and Pete, as an East Coast resident, fights are really early. 11 a.m. Eastern time is when the fights will start there in Long Island. Main card on ABC at 2 p.m. each time. We're here down to break down the main card from the betting side of this fight card, and we are sponsored by BetMGM. Going to tell you about the great offer they have for you that you got to take advantage on, where you can make some money and then use those winnings to bet on UFC Long Island. Of course, as always, appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch us right here on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when a video is here on the channel. We got a ton of great programming for you each and every day. Pete, as we look at this fight card from a betting side, a little bit of a tough slate here coming up here on Saturday.
Yeah, it really is. It's an interesting fight card for sure. Like, I can't wait to watch it from a viewing standpoint. From a betting standpoint, I'm going to have to pick my shots, truthfully. Sometimes I'm a full-on play everything type of player out there, but I might have to be a little bit more selective and figure out my best ways to target the main card, especially. I like some undercard value, but the main card's a little bit tricky and seems a little volatile.
Yeah, I mean, before we kind of get into the main card, we'll talk about that preliminary card.
Yeah.
The one number that sticks out to me. I mean, look, it's a close fight. I think I can see it going either way. But I think if you're the value boys and you're looking for some value out there, I do look at Ricky Simón plus 140 taking on Jack Shore. I mean, look, I think Jack Shore is an incredible prospect that the UFC has. Ricky Simón. I mean, look, he is a big 35 or getting plus money at plus 140 on his side of the equation. Like, as I look at that preliminary card and I'm looking for value, Ricky Simón to me is a value play I'm looking at. I mean, but look, I think that if you do take Ricky Simón, it is going to be a fight that you may have to sweat out, because I think the likelihood is this is going to be a 3-round battle. Maybe if you look to get to a little bit more value on your money, maybe you look at Ricky Simón plus decision. But as I look at the underdogs over on the preliminary card, that was the one that stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, I can't blame you at all. I'm a big Ricky Simón guy. If you ask me who I like better, Ricky Simón or Jack Shore, it's definitely Ricky Simón. I just love his game. He has phenomenal wrestling, and I don't even feel like he's reached his potential yet. I think that this kid is ever improving. His boxing combinations have leveled up throughout his UFC tenure. We have seen that he's more comfortable to stand in the pocket and trade with you. And we already know him to be a top-heavy, dominant wrestler. So it's just, how does he deal with the length of Jack Shore and the scrambling ability and also the jiu-jitsu skills of Jack Shore? I really feel like on any given night, either one of these fighters can walk out victorious. I'm going to play Ricky Simón just because of the value, but I'm nervous, and I am nervous because I feel like it's massive step up in competition for both of these guys. More so, Jack Shore stepping up a little bit more in competition to face a guy in Ricky Simón. And you talk about it's going to be fireworks. I can't wait to watch it. I expect this to go the distance and be a nail biter of a performance. On the undercard, not an underdog that I really like, but I think that Bill Algio's in a really, really good spot here against Herbert Burns. And I like Bill Algio to win inside the distance. So it's looking like it's around plus 180 for him to win inside the distance against Herbert Burns. Something that, I just feel like I'm going to sprinkle a little bit.
Another fighter I would point to that on the preliminary card that does stick out to me, he is a sizable betting favor in this one, and that is Puna Soriano. So as we're doing this show, he's around minus 250, but I would be more looking at finding the prop of him to win either inside the distance or via TKO KO. The one thing about Dolce, we saw in his last fight against Cody Brundage, which, I mean, look, he was having a ton of success in that fight with the striking, and then he got tired. and he shot a takedown, and Cody Burnage took absolute advantage of that. So I think that's one of the things that Puna Soriano, we've seen him go 15 minutes inside the UFC. That may be someone to look at targeting in terms of an inside the distance type prop. I would probably more go for that TKO KO, looking at around plus 160 currently here, but that to me is something to look at. But outside of that, I like the favorites on the undercard.
Yeah, I mean, and if I feel like the odds are just about right, I may just divert my attention to a different fight where I feel like the odds are off or the value is on a specific side. So I think that Punit Soriano inside the distance makes a ton of sense against Dolce Lugambula, round one monster who extremely fades as the fight goes long. And I think that Punit Soriano can, hurt him on the feet. And he's a phenomenal wrestler if he absolutely needs to take Dolce Lugambula to the mat. So I just feel like it's a Soriano inside the distance or via TKO KO. So I would agree with that play.
So, of course, if you got a favorite undercard bet on this card from the preliminary card, leave a comment there in the comments below. We'll interact with you in the comments. But Pete, let's get right into the main event. It is a key matchup in the featherweight division where Yair Rodriguez is saying that the UFC has told him with a victory that he will get the next title shot, which I'm sure Josh Emmett is throwing some things against the wall right now, taking on Brian Ortega. First fight for Brian Ortega since losing to Alexander Volkanovski. Brian Ortega is the betting favorite in this one, minus 165. Yair Rodriguez plus 140. And, when you look at the stats on this one, a 2-inch reach advantage for Yair Rodriguez. You have when you talk about the stance, you got an orthodox in Yair Rodriguez versus Ortega, who will switch in between stances. But to me, that the two stats that will stick out to you on paper, and one of them I think you kind of have to throw an asterisk on, and it is that strikes absorbed per minute for Brian Ortega, which is 6.69. Now, that number definitely has been inflated with his matchups against Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. But the other stat that I really point to, and to me, this is really the key for Brian Ortega to walk away with the victory here is his ability, if he can get to the ground. I mean, look, he's not very accurate at getting the fight to the ground, but when he gets it to the ground, there's a reason this guy is called T-City, averages 1.2 submissions per 15 minutes of fighting. Look, I think the question becomes is A, can Brian Ortega get there? And B, what do we see out of Ortega after being gone for so long? And Yair wants to keep the fight on the feet.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal matchup. Truthfully, I can't wait to watch it. And if you told me that Yair Rodriguez is taken down by Brian Ortega every round, obviously I'm going to be favoring Brian Ortega. It's just, what can he do with the takedown? Can he, have solid control time? We understand that he is an opportunistic grappler where he will hunt finishes, which is great, but you're not always going to land the finishes. And I do think that a guy in Brian Ortega who's been so successful with that, sometimes it doesn't work. And is Yair the guy that can really expose that? I don't necessarily know. I would avoid the ground at all costs. And I think that his takedown defense or his get up ability will be enough to keep it primarily on the feet. And the range of the kicking master, let's say, of Yair Rodriguez is going to be completely different than the range that Brian Ortega is accustomed to, where he likes to fight at boxing range and work his way inside and make things ugly. I think that Yair is going to be far, far away from that boxing range. He's going to be at kicking range, and he's going to look to keep Brian Ortega away from him. And I don't know. It's not a similar stylistic matchup, but one thing that I could see happening is how like Edson Barboza absolutely butchered Dan Hooker to the body with tremendous amount of kicks and just, made Dan Hooker just absorb so many strikes. Yair Rodriguez has that capability about him, and we have seen Ortega take a ton of damage. And obviously, that strikes absorbed per minute stat is completely skewed because of Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. But he is hittable. He is hittable, and I worry about him being lulled into a brawl and falling in love with his hands. I feel like the masses are going to be loving the Brian Ortega side. I am actually going to be siding with Yair Rodriguez, sitting there at plus 140, just ever so slightly.
I mean, look, I do like the value that there is there in Yair Rodriguez. I mean, one of the things that, and we were talking a little bit earlier where I was pointing to the advances we saw with Ortega when he had that layoff between the Holloway and the Chan Sung Jung fight. So what type of things could we see him go in this matchup here? Look, there are some bright people in this industry that, to me, I've already heard them talk about being on the Yair Rodriguez side of the equation, but the one thing is, and T City is going to be, he's an optimistic type fighter where he's going to go for things. And we have seen Yair get stopped late in a fight. So I do give a slight edge to Brian Ortega, but like, I don't mind going with the value with Yair Rodriguez, but you brought up a great point. Like, he has to stay away from grappling. Like, do not even engage in that. If, you see any type of engagement, man, he's got to get away. And the fact that this is in the 30-foot UFC octagon as opposed to 25-footer, I think does help out Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The footwork, and just being the matador while Ortega is trying to be the bull and try to bull his way into distance, whether it's to clinch, look for a takedown, or just get into boxing range. He just needs to dance on the outside. The Frankie Edgar performance, that Yair Rodriguez had, is obviously the biggest asterisk on this entire thing, because you saw Frankie Edgar take him down and butcher him on the mat. And we already know that the jiu-jitsu skills of Brian Ortega are above Frankie Edgar, despite Frankie Edgar being a phenomenal and a superior wrestler. And I do think that could be the situation where Yair struggles against dominant wrestlers. And I don't view Ortega as that. I view him as a dominant grappler, which is slightly different. So I'm just intrigued to see how this plays out. And I feel like it's just going to be extremely violent. As long as Ortega mixes things up, he should be the A side. If he just is okay with striking with Yair Rodriguez, I think he's in trouble.
Let's move over to the co-main event female matchup. We got Michelle Waterson taking on Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos is the betting favorite in this one, minus 350. The return on Michelle Waterson is plus 260. You have a 3-inch reach advantage for Amanda Lemos in this one. Of course, Lemos is coming off that submission loss to Jessica Andrade, the standing triangle choke. And of course, Michelle Waterson, she's been out of action for some time. And look, I like Amanda Lemos in this spot, but I'll turn to you. Of outside of submission, how does Michelle Waterson get this one done?
I mean, it's going to be tough sledding against Amanda Lemos. She really needs to close the distance, and I don't think she can strike with Amanda Lemos for long periods of time. She needs to try to hit her with headlocks, truthfully, head and arm throws, and land in top position to nullify the dangerous Amanda Lemos. I think, Michelle Waterson has some sneaky takedowns and a pretty sneaky jiu-jitsu game. Now, if she can bank 2 rounds by getting a takedown each round, she could possibly win a decision. It's just, as she's on the feet, I feel like Amanda Lemos's power is significant and superior to hers. And at this point of her career, Amanda Lemos is on the up, despite coming off of a defeat to one of the best women's MMA fighters of all time in Andrade. So I don't really hold that against her too much. Michelle Waterson, she seems somewhat lost. She does look like she's in phenomenal shape, which we will have to see how the weigh-ins go, but she looks like she's in incredible shape. I really feel like Amanda Lemos is going to get through Michelle Waterson with relative ease, to be honest.
Yeah, I really like that prop bet, Amanda Lemos to win via TKO KO. You got plus money coming in on that side of the equation. I mean, look, Michelle Waterson has to grapple. She has to make this a grappling matchup. If you tell me this thing's at range, I think Amanda Lemos, it's, and there's a reason she's a minus 350 favorite. But to me, from the betting side, I would be looking to attack the Amanda Lemos wins via TKO KO, seeing around plus 220. That to me is the line that I would go after. And for Michelle Waterson, she's going to have to get on the inside. She's got a 3-inch reach disadvantage in this one. So I really do like Amanda Lemos in this one. Of course, this is Takedown City as we're getting you ready for UFC Long Island. And be sure to check out our presenting sponsor, and that is BetMGM. As bet $10, win $200 when you wager on any MLB game. Wager must be a pregame moneyline bet. Click the link in the video description below or use the promo code OSMMA to claim your $200 now. Once again, that's promo code OSMMA to claim your $200 now. Turn big plays into paydays with BetMGM. Join the king of sportsbooks. You can take those winnings over, use that for UFC Long Island here on Saturday, and take advantage of that promo they got going on over for you right now. Be sure to use that promo code OSMMA as you bet $10, win $200 when you wager on any MLB game. So I appreciate their support here of Takedown City. Let's move over. Next up, we got a matchup in the welterweight division. Jourdain take on Muslim Salikhov. Salikhov, the betting favorite in this one, Pete. He is a minus 175 betting favorite, plus 145 for Jourdain. Of course, last time we saw Jourdain 8 months ago when he got knocked out by Khamzat Chimaev, and anyone who's been a longtime listener of us knows you are the president of the Khamzat Chimaev fan club. I think one of the question marks you have heading into this one is, when you get knocked out in the manner that Jourdain and how quickly he got knocked out by Khamzat Chimaev, how do you bounce back? He's trained down in South Florida, and, he's obviously training with killers each and every day. This is a matchup that I think is going to play out on the feet. And I give a slight edge to Muslim Salikhov in this fight, but Jourdain has always been a tough SOB.
Yeah, this is a fantastic matchup, and I'm interested to see how Jingliang recovers from, being put unconscious. So we're going to have to see. Khamzat Chimaev, phenomenal grappler, phenomenal striking as well. And he looked extremely dominant in there. And it wasn't too long before that rear naked choke was put on. So Li Jingliang is a mystery to me because I feel like he's often underestimated and he has all the tools. I just feel like he's lacking defensive skills at times. And I see openings for him to lose bouts. Whereas, the king of kung fu and Muslim Salikhov has just such dynamic striking, despite being 38 years old. I do think that he has some tricks up his sleeve in the striking department. Now, I didn't think that he looked all that great against Francisco Trinaldo, but I do think that a guy in Li Jingliang who's a little bit reckless and drops his hands a lot and isn't so defensive minded can be punished. And I think the striking of Muslim Salikhov, despite being low volume, if you're looking at the stats, 3.13 strikes landed per minute, whereas Li Jingliang throws 4.42. I feel like he's more selective and similar to a sniper. And Li Jingliang sometimes throws a lot of stuff at the wall, hoping that something sticks. I am going to be leaning in the direction of Muslim Salikhov. I really wanted to get to Li Jingliang here, and I tried talking myself into it. I know the masses are going to be looking at Li Jingliang as a value piece this week, and I don't hate it by any means. I just feel like, there's a blueprint out there to beat him. We already know that if you can take him down, you can expose him on the mat, as evidence in the Chimaev fight, but he is able to get knocked down and has been knocked down several times in the UFC.
Yeah, and when you look at the takedown average per 15 minutes of fighting for Muslim Salikhov, 1.12, only a 38% takedown accuracy, 39% on the other side for Jourdain here. But I do give a slight edge to Muslim Salikhov. You probably want to look at some of those, looking at some of those prop bets, maybe under 2.5, under 1.5, and maybe if there's a side you prefer, Salikhov or Jourdain via TKO KO is something to sit there. But hey, man, maybe you look at that Jourdain via decision, maybe a more tactical approach he goes in here. But I do prefer Muslim Salikhov at that minus 175 price tag. Let's move over to a flyweight matchup. Matt Schnell taking on Sumudaerjii. Sumudaerjii is a minus 275 betting favorite. Matt Schnell plus 210, a slight reach advantage for Sumudaerjii. I think the one thing when I think about this fight, Pete, is does it play on the feet or does it play on the ground?
Yeah, well, Sumudaerjii better hope it plays out on the feet, because if it plays out on the mat with Matt Schnell, I feel like, Schnell's going to capture the neck somehow, put him in a triangle, isolate an arm. He very, very solid submission artist. Not the best wrestler. It's the chin and the mistakes of Matt Schnell that it's very difficult to get behind him. Other than like an absolute dart throw, because you feel like if he blended everything together, he would be a much more valuable underdog than what he is. He strikes at times where he shouldn't strike, and he gets a little desperate at times. And when he's desperate, his chin is so susceptible to be getting, knocked out, that it's really tough to trust. It truthfully is. And I do think that Sumudaerjii on the feet is just the way that he fights. He fights like a long fighter, nice straight shots, nice and loose with his punches. He's not tight, and he doesn't keep his chin up in the air too much, and he kind of relies on baiting you. And I think Matt Schnell can make a mistake and get punished. So I really like Mudaerji here, and I like Mudaerji via TKO KO. I think that, it's slight plus money. It's sitting there floating around plus 115. It's just a Mudaerji play for me. I can't get behind Matt Schnell because I don't know if he's going to go out there with a true wrestling into top heavy grappling game plan. If I knew that, then I would probably get behind him. It's just the inconsistencies and the mistakes of Matt Schnell are veering me away from him.
I mean, we talked about it last week, said, hey, if Jared Vanderaa goes the
Yeah.
grappling route, this is his best path to win. And, I threw it out there that when I talked to him, I didn't get that sense. And we saw that he didn't go the grappling route. You have to imagine, I mean, look, along with you being a fighter, you're also a coach. And we talk about this every week. It's what is the easiest path to victory? And if you're Matt Schnell and you're in that Matt Schnell coaching circle, the mindset has to be of Matt, look, you got to try to get this one to the ground. Let's not have a kickboxing matchup, and of course, on the other side, the Sumudaerjii team is going, look, he's going to give us opportunities so we don't have to rush anything.
Right. And that's the thing is like, if both camps are doing the correct thing, they're preparing for the worst case scenario. You're not going out there thinking that the fight's going to be tailored around your strengths. You're automatically assuming that the fight is going to be up against your weaknesses. So you already know that Sumudaerjii on his time off is training take down the fence, get up ability, submission defense, all of that. The issue with Matt Schnell going to the takedown department is just like the lack of effectiveness and also like the production inside the UFC. I mean, back against Hector Sandoval, he landed one of one takedown, only had 6 seconds of control time. Outside of that, he had one of one takedowns against Luis Smolka at 28 seconds and then submitted him. So that was great. But like besides that, there's no other fights where he's going out there and relentlessly taking people to the mat, which he enjoys to grapple. He enjoys to strike too. But at this stage of the game, like Schnell, you've taken so much damage, become a grappler. If you're fighting MMA, become a grappler. Take less damage in your fights. But I just can't get behind it. I don't think he's going to do it.
No, I mean, look, it is definitely tough to trust Matt Schnell. I mean, but to me, this all comes down to whether or not he can get this one to the ground. If you agree with us, you don't agree with us, leave a comment below. So we'll interact with you in the comments. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. That really does help us out a lot as well. Now we get to a fight that let's just all caps banger. I mean, this has got banger written all over it. Mm-hmm. To me, this outside the main event, this is my favorite fight on the card, and that is Charles Jourdain and Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos minus 165 betting favorite. Charles Jourdain minus 140. This is one of those fights, Pete. Like you almost you walk into it, say, if this fight hits the ground, it's either one of two scenarios. One guy got knocked down, or the other guy got rocked, and he's trying to take the fight to the ground just to recover.
Yeah, I mean, this fight is insane. I think it's my third favorite on the card outside the main event and the Ricky Simon Jack Shore. This one's right up there. And I'm a striker, of course, but Jourdain and Burgos, you can't pass on it, regardless of what martial arts discipline that you really prefer. I think you have to be excited for this fight. And the danger and the damage that both of these guys can put on their opponent but also how much they've taken inside the octagon is a little troublesome for me because it's a little tough to indicate which comes first. Like, is Burgos his chin shot now? He's been in tons of wars, and we have seen him knocked down and knocked out. I'm a little worried about him absorbing some shots from the very, very dangerous Charles Jourdain. Now, on the flip side, he has the more experience against top level competition. Jourdain coming off a phenomenal performance against Lando Venata, where I thought he was going to struggle in the wrestling department, and he snatched up a beautiful guillotine choke against Lando Venata, and coming off of a dominant performance against Andre Ewell, a former bantamweight. So I feel like that fight in itself is going to make Jourdain a very popular underdog to get to. And I am actually siding with Shane Burgos, believe it or not. I'm worried about his chin. That's something we can't really measure. But I just love the volume and I love the well-rounded skill set. I can still recall Charles Jourdain struggling against Julian Erosa, who is well-rounded, but bottom tier in my opinion. And I do think that Shane Burgos can dig to the body with some great body shots, punish Jourdain. I already know that he has a better gas tank than Jourdain, and we have seen Jourdain fade as the fight goes on. And if Burgos implements takedowns, man, oh man, I think it's going to be easy money. So it's a dangerous one, and I'm eyeing the under, truthfully, but I'm going to be favoring Shane Burgos.
The one thing, and this is going to be what I expect to be a high volume striking fight between these two guys. And when you look at the striking stats here, Shane Burgos lands nearly 8 strikes per minute, 5.6 for Jourdain. On the strikes absorb, 6.69 for Burgos, 4.54 for Charles Jourdain. And when you look at the past couple of fights for Shane Burgos against Cub Swanson landed 129 significant strikes. Marquand Ameriquani only landed 22 significant strikes. Josh Emmett, 127. Edson Barboza, 98. Billy Quarantillo, 164. Those are numbers you don't love to see. And when you look at, when Charles Jourdain does have success, it is when he is able to go out there and utilize that volume. I mean, look, I think there's some questions definitely to have on both sides of the equation. This is one of those ones that, look, I think the right guy is favored, but I do want to take a shot here on Charles Jourdain.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hate it at all. I mean, I honestly think that Jourdain he might have just needed some momentum. And some fighters, when they get on, they get some momentum behind them. You can see it building, and that's when their confidence starts to come in. And we already know that he has the dynamic skill set on the feet. It seems like he's been improving his ground game as well, and he just needs to believe in himself. And he has the power to shut off Burgos' lights. I truthfully believe that, even though Burgos is extremely tough. I'm just going to bank on the well-rounded guy in Burgos to get it done one more time.
And one thing for Shane Burgos in this fight, 6-inch reach advantage. That's obviously a huge thing in this one. And for one thing, Shane Burgos, he's going to have to be looking out for those flying knees, because the reality is there's a reason they call him Air Jourdain. He's probably going to try at least one at some point in this matchup. Now, the opening fight of the main card, female matchup at 125 pounds, was supposed to take place 2 weeks ago, but Lauren Murphy tested positive for COVID, so fight moved back 2 weeks as Miesha Tate making her 125-pound debut. Miesha Tate, the betting favorite here, minus 225, plus 150 for Lauren Murphy. 2-inch reach advantage for Lauren Murphy in this one. And this is one of those fights where I'm wondering who might emphasize wrestling more than the other.
Well, I truthfully would think that, Miesha Tate being the larger fighter and the traditional wrestler always looking for takedowns, I would like to think that she would try to impose her size on Lauren Murphy. And I think she can do so. I really think she can do so. It's just, can she do it consistently with a difficult weight cut? I think we have to be really, really aware of what happens at the weigh-ins, because how does Lauren Murphy look coming off of being sick? How does Miesha Tate look coming off of a more drastic weight cut? Now, there's some other internal things we can't necessarily, measure, and that's like, well, how are they both feeling? Don't know. But we want to pay attention to the weigh-ins. I think that Miesha Tate will have the more well-rounded skill set. And if she implements the correct style of fight, she should be able to win 2 of these rounds. I think that the play here, truthfully, Lauren Murphy to win a decision, totally possible. Miesha Tate to win a decision, totally possible. The over 2.5 is already skyrocketing to like minus 330. So that's kind of like out of touch. Fight goes to decision, sitting there at minus 275. Still a little high, but I 100% think that this fight's going to go the distance. So I think it's going to go to a decision. I'm okay with getting to that now before it really, really skyrockets. And we already know it's probably going 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could see if you're trying to put together, a 3-4 leg parlay, that maybe you look at that over 2.5 rounds, or even that prop of fight goes to decision if you're looking to parlay it with some other pieces together. But yeah, I mean, I think the likelihood is things going to go 15 minutes. And you bring up a great point with Miesha Tate. It's her 125-pound debut.
Mm-hmm.
Was supposed to make this weight 2 weeks ago. Now it was delayed 2 weeks. And that's one of those things where you do want to see what does she look like on the scale. But you bring up a great point of when you have a fighter who, tested positive for COVID 2 weeks ago, what does she look like on the scale? Is it going to be a tougher cut? What does her cardio look like? And this is Miesha Tate. Who knows? Maybe she is fighting for a title shot here because of her name value. Of course, Talia Santos doesn't want to hear that equation, but because of her name value here, I mean, I think Miesha Tate is the correct side. But to me, this is one where I think you need to be looking at those decision props, that over 2.5 round props. And I would be more using this fight as a parlay builder than necessarily looking at just playing it straight up.
Yeah, I love it. I love the advice, Jason. And like you and I were speaking before the show, and there's so many unknowns on both sides and so many variables. So how can you confidently pick one or the other? I think that Miesha Tate's going to have the wrestling advantage, yes. But how does she feel and perform at this weight class? Lauren Murphy just coming off of being sick. How does she perform after just popping for COVID or just experiencing COVID? So too many variables for me to pick a side. I will just use it as a parlay piece, get to that fight goes to decision at minus 275, and move on with my life and be selective with the rest of the fights.
Before we get out of here on this episode, Takedown City, do want to mention, I did speak to Dustin Jacoby leading up to this fight. And, one of the things that I had asked him was, his opponent in his matchup against William Knight went the takedown route. That's the only time the UFC has gone the takedown route. He did mention to me that he does feel that this will be a striking matchup. He does not feel that he's like, look, I will be ready if he does go the takedown route. He goes, but I'm expecting this fight's going to play out on the feeds. And Jacoby, unbeaten in the past couple of years, definitely a guy to pay attention there at 205 pounds. But of course, we appreciate everyone checking out Takedown City right here on Odd Shopper. Be sure to check out our sponsor, BetMGM. Bet $10, win $200 when you wager on any MLB game. That wager must be a pregame money line bet. Click that link in the video description below, or use the promo code OSMMA to claim your $200 now. Turn big plays into paydays with BetMGM. Join the king of sportsbook. Take that free money. Put some bets here on UFC Long Island, as there's going to, we got to see how these lines play out throughout the week, but definitely there are some spots I think we can take advantage of. So I appreciate everyone tuning in for Takedown City, as we're here every week before every UFC event.